Hey everyone, if you are watching this video, you are reading the chapter on equitable, viable, and coherent curriculum. And today I'm meeting with Jeneca Parker. She is formerly the former principal of the glorious PSIS 180 in Harlem, and she just took a new role at Hunter College. Jeneca, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me into this space. I appreciate that. So, as a former principal of a pre-K through 8 school, I am now transitioning into higher education, leading the Center for Social Emotional Learning at Hunter College. And it is an honor to be here today. Thank you so much, Paul.
Yeah, so Jeneca, I don't even know how we met, but I think we met at a district PD day with Superintendent Christine Laughlin. And I think we connected pretty well on that day. And then I was lucky enough to get to partner with you at your school, right? Is that how it happened?
COVID happened somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever happened, we ended up being in the same space, ended up being great friends and really partnering together with the teachers, students, and families at your school and really trying to bring more mastery learning into the forefront where kids had a lot more time to practice against their goals. And in this chapter, we're really talking about deliberate practice and the role of deliberate practice. And I know we kind of turned your teachers a little upside down in the beginning of the year, but we got some great results in the end. I was hoping that you could just take a couple of minutes and talk about like what were some key things that we did via the curriculum that you thought got to that impact that we arrived at the end of the year.
Absolutely. Yes, I recall that day when I was able to introduce you to our staff, and you're absolutely right. It is a big shift. It's a big shift, but it's a beautiful shift. And so some of the work that we did at our school was first having multiple people at the table and for us to just talk about and to just be really honest and vulnerable in this space about what's working and what's not. And quite honestly, what wasn't working is that we would go through the curriculum, whatever the curriculum is, and treat it as though it was so prescriptive. So page 2, it's Tuesday, so now it's page 3. It's Wednesday, so now it's page 4. And that doesn't work for kids. It's mind-boggling to think that this is how we have taught. This is how schools across the country have taught. This is the ecosystem that we're in, is that we just keep going, keep moving forward. And when kids aren't getting it, we throw an intervention at them. When kids aren't getting it, we begin having conversations about disabilities. And all of that is not the right way to lead, and it's not the right way to learn.
Yeah.
So in partnership with you and in partnership with Impact Team, we began to rethink and reframe how we approached it. And so we were very thankful that we were able to, from the beginning, start looking at, well, let's start with what our students are telling us. How about that?
Yeah. Totally. Like maybe let's like listen to the kids.
Right. If the publisher says this is what you should do first, how about we start with what the kids are telling us needs to happen first? And so we use data to do that. And that data comes from a variety of sources. It comes from conversations. It comes from low inference data, but then we also look at a variety of other tools as well, our screeners and our assessments, to really triangulate the data, have a deep dive into what our students are telling us and showing us, where they need more support, and more importantly, what they're really good at, what they're strong at. So that way we can get to the work more efficiently and with a lot more heart.
Yeah, so we prioritize those standards based on those early meetings with the data triangulation. And then they only had a few learning targets per unit, which was very different than going into a curriculum where there's 25 to 30 objectives in every unit and the kids don't really meet any of them unless they came in with them already, right? So like what happened when we changed to less learning targets per unit on the teacher side?
Yeah, we began to slow down. We began to slow down, and my teachers felt, you know, surprisingly, we did not experience a bunch of resistance. If anything, what we experienced was confusion. You're giving me freedom to be able to make this decision, but it wasn't a decision that was made in isolation. And that's the impact team model, is that we're doing this together, and it is data driven. And so when we did that, when we dwindled it down from 25 big ideas down to what are the most essential, that are going to give us the biggest bang for our buck, that our kids really do need to work on, that we can spend the time and energy in really making sure that our students master this, that's when we really begin to see a big change, not only in just how we design curriculum, but also how students experienced curriculum.
Yeah, what would you say, like, what would be some of your high points when we're thinking of the visible impact outside of the test scores? Because, like, neither of us are driven by that, but it is nice to see those climb. I mean, I'm not going to pretend, right? Because it is evidence that the dominant that we value, right? And it does give us insight. But outside of that, what were some of the things that you noticed with your learners that you might not have noticed before, with that slowing down, allowing them to practice around goals that were important to them?
We saw our students in a new light. We began to see our students, they were more confident. We saw changes with their esteem. We also saw ways in which we had students that began to participate more in instruction, in some new ways that we before had to kind of pull to get them to be able to engage with the curriculum.
Yeah.
But they felt more confident, because day one and day two in the work with the gradual release, it felt new, it felt a little bit sticky, but by day 3, 4, 5, and as we're going further, they then began to feel and know that they were mastering the learning. And so then they went to them with a partner. And that was huge. You could see it show up where they wanted to tell a friend. When you get really excited about something,
Yeah, totally.
about it, you want to share your learning. And so we gave space for that within the classroom. You had your learning partner, but you also had space in the classroom where we had the students, you're going to come on up and you're going to teach the class and engage what you are really confident, what you feel really excited about. And that had a ripple effect in so many ways, because sometimes if someone explains something differently, it begins to speak differently. And so we gave space for that.
Yeah, I think what Jeneca is really speaking about, the gradual release, is the kids got a lot more models around strategies than they ever really had before. Before, they might have gotten a model one, and then the expectation is that they should be able to do it. In this new model, they got 3, 4, 5 models, and they got models from their peers. They got models from their teachers. They got to look at exemplars. So I think the clarity probably that the kids experience, and the teachers, I would imagine, did that shift on the teacher side, do you think?
Absolutely. It shifted because we began to look at different strategies together as an impact team. And we started to make some decisions about how we make sense of the work. And we also were able to get a little bit more clear on the essence of the standard and what we were truly asking of students and what's going to best support them and that vehicle for them to be able to show it to us. That was a big shift.
Yeah, that's super cool. Like, I just remember all the text messages and things that I would get from you when things were going in the right direction, and the teachers standing up a little bit taller, because I think the impact of the pandemic did have a negative effect on your school and just overall well-being. And that brings us to this other point. Like, the curriculum isn't just for the standards, right? Like, we talked a lot about the habits of learning, and I know your journey with SEL. Can you speak a little bit about the room that we made for other things outside of the standards? Because I think in terms of learning transfer, it's more than just the standards that we have to think about when we're thinking about how to transfer our learning from one context to another. Could you speak to a little bit regarding those practices that you implemented?
Absolutely. You are correct. All learning is social and emotional. And so we have to find ways to make sure that all of it is integrated within the school life. And that lives and breathes within literacy, within mathematics. It's throughout all the content areas. And so, yes, we spent time talking about content and skills, but we also spent time talking about the dispositions and those habits of mind and those heart habits. That was really important too. And so with our work and looking at the Castle framework and thinking about all of the competencies, we spent a lot of time thinking about not only goal-directed behavior and what that looks like within self-management, but also self-awareness. And we spent a lot of time on self-awareness and tapping into identity and tapping into how we see ourselves within the curriculum, and then how we see each other, not only with our teachers, but also identity work in the classroom with our students. And so we found ways to bring these ideas together, and that within a single period across 8 periods in a day, the two were woven together. It's side by side, heart and mind.
Very cool. And in our evidence to inform and act chapter, I'll be speaking to Jeneca a little bit about how they gather evidence regarding the SEL competencies. But for now, thank you, Jeneca. I hope you as the reader, this is giving you more clarity. And I know that you can find Jeneca on Twitter. And I'll make sure that her Twitter address is in the book so you can reach out and DM her on your own.
Thank you so much. This was lovely. Have a great day.